Yo, this week's episode of Tales of Zestiria the X, it personally got me pretty hyped. I mean, the soundtrack in this episode, the animation is always on point when it comes to Tales, but the sound quality was just on point in this episode. And then the fight scene that was going down between Zaveid and Aizen the dragon, like, that shit got me hyped. What is going on, guys? It's Professor Anime. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I am here to bring you all the weekly Tales of Zestiria the X review. So this is episode 9 of the broadcast order. However, if you are going by the chronological order, this is episode 8, but I'm going by the broadcast order, so this is episode 9, hence the title of the video. Anyways, let's get started with the review. So in this week's episode of Tales of Zestiria, we get introduced to two awesome characters in Tales of Zestiria. We get introduced to Edna, the Earth Wielder, the Earth Element. She has the Earth Element, while Lila has the Art of Fire, and Mikleo has the Art of Water. Edna has the Element of Earth. As we see in this episode, she's using rock attacks and stuff like that, so that is pretty cool. Kind of like, in a way, she kind of uses, if you've ever seen Avatar The Last Airbender, she uses the Earth Element in order to, you know, use her overall power, and that's honestly identical to her playing style. I would love to see a, you know, screw attack battle on Edna versus Toph from Avatar The Last Airbender. I would actually like to see how that would go down. Oh, but then we get introduced to Zaveid. Zaveid, I gotta say, you know, his character design, when I saw it in the game for the first time, I was like, yo, his character design is sick. I love his spunky-like personality. Like, he's a very cool character. I personally really enjoy his character, and just seeing him introduced in this episode, you know, using his little wind pistols, you know, it's so awesome to see, because he's actually a Seraphim that has the element of wind, which is pretty interesting. So actually, we've met quite a few Seraphim with different elements. We got Mikleo with the element of water, Lila the element of fire, Zaveid the element of wind, and then we have Edna, who has the element of earth. So there could be possible more elements out there that we don't know about when it comes to Tales of Zestiria, but from what we got in this week's episode, like, it was just awesome seeing all these summoning arts go about when they were battling the dragon and everything. Which, speaking about the dragon, so we find out that the dragon is actually Edna's brother that was turned into a Hellion, and this Hellion has, like, a lot of malevolence. It's built upon malevolence, and that is why, you know, it was hard for Zaveid to take down, even in his summoning art form. He didn't have enough power within himself to take down that dragon. Neither did Edna, neither did Lila, or even Zaveid himself, as we saw in this episode. But we find out a little bit about Edna's past with her brother named Aizen. Aizen is apparently the dragon, as we know, which, you know, but I was very surprised on how exactly the episode kind of introduced who exactly Aizen is. Like, they showed who he was before, you know, he became the dragon, which was very interesting, because I thought they would conceal his identity until, like, maybe after, you know, a few episodes, you know, Zaveid ends up going up against the dragon again. But I was just very surprised on how we get to see a little bit of backstory between Aizen and Edna's past and everything, and seeing little Edna, like, it was just adorable. And it also seems like Zaveid knows Aizen to some degree as well. Maybe they have had a past. We don't really know much about their past from what we saw in this episode, because we only saw Edna's and Aizen's past. But I'm very curious to see, you know, the past between Aizen and Zaveid, if it ever is brought about as the episodes go on of Tales of Zestiria. But it does seem like they have had some sort of relationship in the past, and, you know, they are both Seraphim, or at least Aizen was once a Seraphim, and that is pretty much how, you know, we know that they spent, you know, quite a bit of time together. Oh, but that battle between Saray and the dragon, Eyes in the Dragon, like, it was just insane. I mean, as I said before, the animation is just on point when it comes to Tales of Zestiria. It's probably not the best animation that we have seen from Ufotable, because honestly, in my personal opinion, I think Tales of Zestiria's animation is like a downgraded version to Fate Zero, but keep in mind, Fate Zero had a lot of great animation, and it was, I personally believe, maybe a higher budget than Tales. I mean, Tales has a game series of its own, but I don't know, just in my personal opinion, I think that while the animation is good, it's kind of like a downgraded version from, you know, what we have seen in the Fate series. But anyway, that doesn't matter. What made this episode was not only the animation, but it was the soundtrack. The soundtrack is what made this episode of Tales of Zestiria. Saray going up against the dragon was just so freaking intense and insane, and especially that one scene. The one scene that I really loved out of this episode of Tales of Zestiria is where we see Edna being thrown up into the air. The dragon is about to unleash its fury on Edna, which is, you know, the dragon's sister, apparently. And then everything goes in slow motion as Saray and, you know, Lila and Zaveid, you know, are trying to rescue her, but then we transition to the next scene where it seems like the dragon ended up flying off. But, like, that specific moment where the characters were just rushing at the dragon, it was very slow, and the soundtrack just kept on building up and building up the hype. Like, yo, that was one of the best moments that we have had in Tales of Zestiria the X. And then, of course, we get to the ending of this episode where Zaveid ends up pretty much splitting up with the group. It seems like he is going on his own little quest for now, and we will most likely see him again in the near future. But when it comes to Edna, on the other hand, Edna has now become a part of the team, as we learn that Lila is about to put a contract on Edna. Basically, you know, by doing this sort of ritual when it comes to the Seraphim, Edna, another Seraphim, will be able to join the Shepherd's party. So that is pretty interesting. We learned a little bit about that. And then, of course, we gotta talk about Mikleo. Mikleo ends up going to the underground ruins in which we saw in last week's episode, and we find out what exactly the artifact he was looking for is. It's actually the bow and arrow. So, the bow and arrow, I've heard a lot from, you know, people who like the Tales of Zestiria game series that they love Mikleo's summoning art. You know, from what we have seen, we have only seen Lila and Saray, like, combine forces for, you know, him to use her power. But once Mikleo grabs this, you know, bow and arrow and, you know, ends up partying it up with Saray again, we're going to see, you know, Saray end up merging powers with Mikleo, and he is going to use the bow and arrow, which is pretty sick, because, like, what we see in the game, like, him rapid firing the bow and arrow, like, it's so awesome to see. So that was kind of cool to see what kind of artifact we actually were being introduced in this episode. What was the artifact that Mikleo was looking for? So yeah, that was pretty cool indeed. But, yeah, I think that about does it for this episode review when it comes to Tales of Zestiria the X episode 9. I personally believe that this is probably the best episode that we have had of Tales of Zestiria, like, so far. Like, it was just that good. It was really hype. We got introduced to two awesome characters, and, you know, now that we have gotten introduced to these two awesome characters, we're gonna get introduced to more awesome characters, and the story is going to develop more and more over time, so it's not going to be as slow-paced as what we have seen in, you know, the past episodes of Tales of Zestiria. Things will officially start to, you know, build up now. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below on what you guys thought about this episode of Tales of Zestiria the X. I'm very curious. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you like Edna? Do you like Zaveid? Let me know in the comments. And of course, if you like this video, don't forget to drop a like. It always helps out the channel. And if you want to stick up to date to my future content on this channel, please hit that red subscribe button below, and you will never miss a video from me. That about does it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.